Good morning to all of you students. कैसे हैं आप लोग सब? So students, today we are going to start a new chapter, that is chapter 11, ethics and terms of audit engagements. So it is also a last chapter of your syllabus, and it is also very important chapters, one of the very important chapters. So in this chapter, students, we shall be studying about ethics, their meaning, need, and importance. So what do we mean by ethics? What are professional ethics? Why are professional ethics important to us? We shall also be understanding about fundamental principles governing professional ethics. Remember, there are 5 fundamental principles governing professional ethics. So we shall be learning about these principles one by one. And we shall also be understanding the concept of independence of auditors in detail. We have been reading this term independence since chapter 1, since we studied auditing. But in this chapter, we shall be uh, learning about various aspects of this term, that is independence of auditors. And we shall also be learning about threats to independence of auditors. So threats basically mean, students, under which circumstances auditors independence is in danger. Okay. So when auditor's independence is in danger, he has to take certain safeguards to ensure, to protect his independence. And then we shall be learning about professional skepticism, and besides it, there are 3 essays covered in this chapter. These are essay 210, SQC1, and essay 220. Okay, so SQC1 is basically a quality control standard, and essay 210 and essay 220 are standards on auditing. So essay 210 relates to auditor's responsibility in accepting terms of engagement, in accepting terms of audit engagement. And essay 220 is also related to quality control. So this is the broad outview of the chapter which we are going to study. That is chapter 11, ethics and terms of audit engagement. Yes. Fine. So should we start? So students, what are ethics? What are ethics? Tell me. You have heard this term. So try to tell me generally, what do we understand by ethics? Leave aside technicalities. What do we understand by ethics? So ethics, students, these are moral principles governing human behavior. So when we talk about ethics, can we straitjacket these these moral principles? So students, you have to understand that every profession has its own ethics, and rather human civilization is also built upon ethics. So consider, take the example of doctors. Medical profession, so they have their own ethics. So students, my request to all of you is, while studying this topic is, do not try to talk frivolously while understanding this topic कि सर ये तो ऐसे होता है, ऐसे कैसे होगा. So just try to imbibe what I am trying to say. And students, this topic, ethics institute has been laying very much emphasis on this topic of ethics, as you can see from the name of your subject also. So the name of your subject, earlier the name of the paper was auditing and assurance in old syllabus. Now the name of paper is auditing and ethics. So the institute wants you to think ethically, to imbibe ethical values while studying this subject. And not only this subject, they have made a common thread in all subjects while teaching, say, direct tax laws, while teaching GST, they are also putting emphasis on ethics. Okay. So understand this thing. So students, we were talking about medical profession, we were talking about doctors. So they have got their own set of ethics, like to take care of patient. So when so you have heard this term, students. I am writing this term. Have you heard this? Yes. The term is Hippocratic oath. क्या आपने ये टर्म सुनी है स्टूडेंट किसी ने? ये कौन लेते हैं टर्म? ये कौन लेते हैं ओथ? Which professionals take such kind of oath? Yes, किसी ने सुनी है स्टूडेंट्स आप में से? हिपोक्रेटिक ओथ. आप में से किसी ने इस टर्म को, इस फ्रेज को सुना है स्टूडेंट्स? यस. Yes, Sushil Kumar Barik, you are saying yes. Bhumika, yes. Bhumika is saying doctors take this. Yes, Bhumika, you are right. So doctors take this kind of oath. So Hippocrates was a physician, and he has immense contribution to medical science. So so doctors take Hippocratic oath. So doctors take Hippocratic oath to take well-being of their patients uh, at the first. So therefore they also follow ethics, like legal profession, lawyers. They also follow ethics. Say liar. So say lawyer. He doesn't attend court proceedings of his client without a suitable cause. He doesn't appear, nor does he request for adjournment, resulting in resulting in loss to his client. So is he acting ethically? No, he is not acting ethically in such circumstances. So similar to medical professions, similar to legal professions, auditors or chartered accountants, they also follow ethics. Okay. Rather, you should you should understand that the need for ethics in chartered accountancy profession is much more than in any other profession. Can you figure out why it is so? Now I am asking you students that the need for ethics in chartered accountancy profession is much more than in any other profession. What could be the reason for this? Yes. Yes, Sushil, it is mandatory for auditors to follow ethics. Yes, can you tell me, students, why it is important? Why ethics, the concept of ethics becomes important for chartered accountants, for auditors than in any other profession? Yes. Yes, can you tell students? Why this is more important in auditing profession? Because chartered accountants deal with finance, they deal with financial figures, and public at large reposes trust on the financial statements which are signed by them. Public at large reposes trust on the documents, on the certificates which are signed by the chartered accountants, which are signed by auditors. Okay. So therefore, the concept of ethics becomes very, very important for chartered accountants, for auditors. Okay. So students, you have also to understand that there are two aspects to ethics. Rather, you can say there are two approaches to ethics. Now, one is principles-based approach. And one is rules-based approach. So what is the difference between these two approaches, and what these two approaches at first place are all about? Okay. So principle-based approach, students, you have to understand, is an approach which emphasizes on following ethical principles while performing the duties as an auditor. Whereas rule-based approach emphasizes upon following rules, upon following the rule book. ओके कि अगर ये चीज मेरे कोड में लिखी है, मेरे कोड ऑफ एथिक्स में लिखी है, तो मैं फॉलो करूंगा, नहीं तो नहीं करूंगा. लेकिन स्टूडेंट्स, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट ethics is such a wide field, and human behavior can cover many aspects, and it can be challenging at times to understand what is ethical and what is not ethical. Say something is not written in your rule book, but still it may be unethical. Why? Because it is violative of the principles. Okay, so the essential difference between principle-based approach and rules-based approach is that rules-based approach follows रूल बुक. जो किताब में लिखा हुआ है, जो आपके कोड ऑफ एथिक्स में लिखा हुआ है, जो आपकी जो चीज कोडिफाई की हुई है, उसको ही पूरा लाइन टू लाइन फॉलो करना. और प्रिंसिपल बेस्ड अप्रोच है एक ब्रॉड व्यू लेना प्रिंसिपल्स के अकॉर्डिंगली कि क्या चीज एथिकल है या नहीं है. अगर कोई आदमी प्रिंसिपल बेस्ड अप्रोच फॉलो करता है तो रूल बेस्ड अप्रोच तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली फॉलो करेगा. ये आप समझिए. ओके, यस सुमन, यू आर राइटिंग करेक्टली दैट प्रिंसिपल बेस्ड अप्रोच इज सुपीरियर. Okay, Parth, you are also saying correctly why it is important for auditors to follow ethics. So you understand these things, students, and students, remember that institute has issued a code of ethics for chartered accountants, and which you will study at your final level. So at your final level, the name of the paper is Advanced Auditing Assurance and Professional Ethics. Okay, so at your final level, you will be taught about all the rules, all the laws relating to ethics. So some portion of it is derived from Chartered Accountants Act 1949, which contains various do's and don'ts for CAs, like what CAs in practice can't do. Okay, besides, there are council regulations also, ICAI council regulations also, which prohibit chartered accountants from undertaking certain activities. So, all these things you would be reading at your CA final level. So, at the intermediate level, you have to understand this much, that what is the meaning of ethics, you have to understand it, and what are the fundamental principles governing ethics, you have to understand these things generally. Detailing of the same, nitty-gritty of the same is at your CA final. जो पूरा का पूरा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स एक्ट 1949 में जो डिफरेंट प्रोविजंस हैं, these would be taught to you at your CA final level. Okay. So students, have you got basic general overview of what do we mean by ethics, what is their significance, and why they are important for chartered accountants? Yes, students. If it is clear to you, can we go to modules, friends? Tell me. You have got a broad overview. Yes. So the term ethics means moral principles which govern a person's behavior. It is the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. So ethics is something which comes from an individual intrinsically. इसका क्या मतलब है स्टूडेंट्स? Ethics, it says that ethics is something which comes from a person naturally, which comes from a person within intrinsically. So अगर आप किसी आदमी को जितना मर्जी आप उसको कहो ये रूल है, this is rule 1, this is rule 2, this is rule 3, this is rule 4, this is rule 5, you have to follow these rules. But if that person has not a bent of mind which is ethical, so he would always find ways to bypass those rules. So therefore we say that ethics is a state of mind. It is a state of mind. Okay, that I have to keep always it in my mind, that it would always be there in my subconscious, that it would always be there in my subconsciousness, that I would have to follow ethical principles. Okay. So it has to be inculcated in the habit and temperament of an individual, so that there is a overall culture of ethics, and the force has to be strong enough to withstand any selfish motive. So you can understand, students, what is the importance of ethics, that it is a state of mind, it has to be developed naturally, it is a sort of temperament, it is not just blindly following certain rules and to say that this is ethical because it is written in the book, or it is not ethical because it is omitted to be written in the book. So you have to take a decision keeping in view the circumstances, keeping in view the whole picture, keeping in view the things holistically, that what is ethical and what is not ethical. Clear, students? Is this clear? So जो is try to learn these 2-3 lines, important 3-4 lines which are written in this paragraph. So these lines would help you in answering questions also. Okay, एक 2-3 डिफिकल्ट लाइन स्टूडेंट्स आप रिमेंबर कर ले तो आपको अच्छा रहेगा. इसको कहीं भी आप इन लाइंस को यूज कर सकते हैं क्वेश्चन के आंसर के टाइम. So this is again the same thing, need for professional ethics, which we have studied right now. Importance of professional ethics, why there is need. So professions like law, medicine have their own code of ethics. Auditing profession is no exception. So it means that like other professions, auditing profession has also got its own ethics. Rather, in the profession of auditing, requirement of ethics is manifold. So important. So the requirement of ethics is many times greater in auditing profession for chartered accountants as compared to other professions. Okay. It is due to the reason that the society in general, governments, clients, authorities, investors, they repose tremendous trust in services rendered by CAs. That is why there is need for ethics in auditing profession, and that is why the significance is much more. Okay. Yes, Ashok Kharyal, you are saying please explain again. So what do you want me to explain again? Yes, tell me, what do you want me to explain again? So the purpose of assurance engagements is to enhance confidence of intended users. Therefore, users need to trust the person who is providing such services. So students, you would realize कि अभी इसमें वही बातें लिखी हुई हैं जो कि आप सब मेरे को मेल्स में अपने दिमाग से सोच के लिख के भेज रहे थे कि ये ट्रस्ट बना रहे, उसके लिए जरूरी है. सो ऑल दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स विच यू आर राइटिंग in your mails, in your answers, these are written here. Probably you had not seen, but you were thinking logically. Okay. Yes. So Ashok, you are asking to explain again the meaning of ethics. So meaning of ethics is that it is a state of mind that in every situation while performing his activities as an auditor, the auditors have to think ethically. They have to think that whether the situation they are acting is not unethical from any point of view. And such a thing, such ethics comes to a person from within. It can't be imposed upon him. उसके कहने का मतलब है कि उसका टेम्परामेंट ही ऐसा होना चाहिए, उसके उसके प्रिंसिपल्स, रादर टू यूज ए हिंदी वर्ड संस्कार, तो उसके संस्कार ही ऐसे होने चाहिए कि ही शुड बी ए पर्सन ऑफ ethics. He should be able to act ethically. Okay. So it should be an attitude. It should be a state of mind to act ethically in every situation. Okay. I hope it is clear to you. So professional ethics are based on morality. So human nature being what it is, we as humans place our personal gain above service. So लोगों को लालच आ जाता है स्टूडेंट्स, सबको ह्यूमन नेचर है कि लोगों को लालच आ जाता है. ओके. सो और लालच में गलत काम भी लोग करते हैं. So therefore, persons who as individual and a class are willing to place public good above their personal gain have enjoyed respect and honor. But such a relationship can be maintained and enhanced only if the professional body to which they belong would interpret the concept of public interest as broadly as possible. So therefore, students, you have to understand that professional ethics involves self discipline. So these involve self-discipline. So if I do not have an attitude of acting ethically, then no matter how many laws, how many rules may be imposed upon me, I may be tempted to bypass such rules. Okay. So this is the concept that you have to understand. Okay. So accountancy profession, as you know, acts in public interest. So a distinguishing feature of the accountancy profession is its acceptance of the responsibility to act in the public interest. So professional ethics seek to protect the interests of profession as a whole and act as a shield that enables us to command respect. अब इसका क्या मतलब है? Why need of professional ethics? Because there are professional ethics, because chartered accountants, auditors are bound by professional ethics. That is why public at large, that is why people, that is why society at large reposes trust in them. That is why government authorities say कोई भी सर्टिफिकेट देना होता है ना, तो वो कहते हैं सीए से साइन करवा के लाओ. Get it signed from chartered accountant, get it certified from your auditors. Why it is so? What is the reason behind it? उसके पीछे ये रीजन है, because auditing profession is bound by professional ethics, and professional ethics protect interests of profession as a whole and act as a cover that enables us to command respect. क्योंकि इतनी चीजें हैं उस कोड में, जो कोड ऑफ एथिक्स है, कि आप एथिक्स के हिसाब से ही चलेंगे. आप एथिक्स के हिसाब से ही काम करेंगे. ओके. यस दीपराज, this is the need of ethics, because if a chartered accountant, if an auditor does not act ethically, we as professionals would lose our respect in the society. So to command, to enjoy that respect, we have to act ethically in all situations. It helps us to command the respect, and it helps us to protect the interests of profession as a whole. Okay. So remember, students, one more important thing, that chartered accountants, whether these are in practice, those who are in practice, or those who are in service, they are bound by ethical behaviors. They are bound by ethical behaviors. For chartered accountants who are in practice, they are performing attest functions. For them, the requirement of ethics is detailed in various situations. It is quite exhaustive, but it is not so that for those chartered accountants who are in service, the ethics are not applicable. It is not so. It is applicable for both of them, whether they are in practice or whether they are in service. Yes, Pawan. Yes, ethics is something more than the law. So law में तो वही होता है जो कागज पे लिखा हुआ है, वही आपको फॉलो करना है. But ethics is a state of mind. It is an attitude. ओके. कि जो नहीं भी लिखा हुआ लेकिन फिर भी एथिकल नहीं है, तो वो मेरे को चीज फॉलो नहीं करनी है. सो दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ एथिक्स. This is the true meaning of ethics. Yes, clear, students? Is it clear? So a chartered accountant, either in practice or in service. This is important, students. A chartered accountant, either in practice or in service, has to abide by ethical behaviors. They are expected to follow fundamental principles of profession while performing their duties. It is in this spirit of things that Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI, requires its members to comply with the principle of ethics while performing their duties. The ethics for CAs have therefore been codified, as ethical compliance has been a philosophy of the profession. Codified का क्या मतलब है कि उसको अलग से एक आईसीआई ने एक बुक रिलीज की है, उसको कोडिफाई किया, जिसको हम कोड ऑफ एथिक्स कहते हैं, जिसमें ये सारी चीजें डिटेल्ड है, जैसा कि मैंने आपको बताया. यस सुमन गोयल, यस यू, दैट इज व्हाई आई हैव मार्क्ड इट एज इंपॉर्टेंट. क्योंकि कुछ लोग इंप्रेशन ये बन जाएगा कि कोई अगर सीए सर्विस में है तो उस पे कोड ऑफ एथिक्स एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, और प्रैक्टिस में है तो उसके लिए ऊपर एप्लीकेबल है. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है, दोनों पे एप्लीकेबल है. लेकिन कोड ऑफ एथिक्स में रिक्वायरमेंट है कि जो लोग प्रैक्टिस में है उन पे कौन से चैप्टर एप्लीकेबल है, और जो लोग सर्विस में है उनके लिए अलग से चैप्टर है. और बट the basic thing is that you have to follow the fundamental principles governing the ethics. Yes. So the ethics for chartered accountants have therefore been codified. कोडिफाइड का क्या मतलब है कि उसको एक कोड बना दिया गया है, एक एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड फॉर्म में उसको रिलीज किया है आईसीआई ने। और ये आज से नहीं स्टूडेंट्स, ये तो स्टार्टिंग से ही है। ठीक है, फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम इट हैज अंडरगॉन चेंजेस, and as I have been telling you, this code of ethics draws from basic principles governing the ethics, and the concept of independence, and Chartered Accountants Act 1949, provisions of Chartered Accountants Act 1949, and council decisions, council rules and regulations. So these all things are included in code of ethics. So chartered accountants, whether in practice or in service, are required to comply with the provision of code of ethics. सो सीए चाहे वो सॉरी प्रैक्टिस में है या सर्विस में है, उनको दे आर रिक्वायर्ड टू फॉलो, टू कॉम्प्लाई विद द प्रोविजंस ऑफ कोड ऑफ एथिक्स. सो what happens when a CA doesn't follow? Next logical question is, some of you may be asking कि अगर कोई सीए कोड ऑफ एथिक्स को नहीं फॉलो करता तो व्हाट विल हैपन? सो इट ब्रिंग्स इनटू एक्शन द डिसिप्लिनरी मैकेनिज्म. सो उसके अगेंस्ट डिसिप्लिनरी एक्शन भी हो सकता है उस सीए के अगेंस्ट, and it can include such act as suspension of membership, imposing of fines, and removal from membership of ICAI. So students, you can well understand, you can very much understand that how stringent, how strict the code of ethics is. Yes. No, it is not that, Suman Goel. After constitution of NAFRA, there is a division of responsibilities. Like NAFRA is responsible for quality control in respect of audit of listed companies. So that falls in their jurisdiction. So the other field which doesn't fall in the jurisdiction of NAFRA, that is being taken care of by ICAI. Okay. सो प्रिंसिपल बेस्ड अप्रोच वर्सेस रूल बेस्ड अप्रोच, तो ये हम स्टार्टिंग में स्टूडेंट्स इसका मतलब समझ चुके हैं. So the essence of principles based approach to ethics is that it requires compliance with spirit of ethics. जैसे कि मैंने आपको स्टूडेंट्स बताया था स्टार्टिंग में कि प्रिंसिपल बेस्ड अप्रोच का मतलब है कि मैंने अपना एटीट्यूड ही ऐसा बना लिया कि मैं काम जो है एथिकल ही करूंगा. ठीक है. इट रिक्वायर्स द ऑडिटर्स टू एक्सरसाइज प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट in every situation based upon their professional knowledge, skill and expertise. Okay. So practically students काम करते हुए there can be n number of situations involving ethical issues. So therefore chartered accountants Therefore, chartered accountants, auditors, they have to evaluate, they have to assess each situation, and then they have to arrive at the decision whether this is ethical or whether it is not ethical. However, rules-based approach to ethics is narrow, and it lays emphasis on clearly established rules. Okay, so in such a case, spirit of ethics may be overlooked, and you would understand that it is not possible to visualize, to imagine every situation and to prescribe rules for that. So practically different type of situation हो सकती है, तो उसके लिए क्या है कि जो स्पिरिट है, जो उसका भाव है एथिक्स का, स्पिरिट है, भाव, हिंदी में एक शब्द है भाव, ठीक है, तो जो उसका भाव है उसको फॉलो करना है, ना कि सिर्फ जो लिखा है उसको ही फॉलो करना है. Yes. Is that clear, students? So, meaning of ethics, why ethics, importance of ethics, why there is need for, why there is more importance of professional ethics for auditing profession, and the difference between principles based approach and rules based approach. What is the difference between these two? These things you have to understand, and I hope that you have understood these things. These are very simple things, but you have to understand it in the right perspective, and from an examination point of view, you have also to remember some lines so that you can write the answer in the exam. So say question in the exam comes to you, comes regarding the difference between principle based approach and rules based approach. So unless you remember 2-3 lines from this paragraph, you won't be able to answer the question. Okay. Clear, students? Is this clear? Yes. Now we come to fundamental principles of professional ethics. तो फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स, पहले स्टूडेंट्स इसको थोड़ा सा हम जनरली समझ लेते हैं, उसके बाद हम टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज में आपके मॉड्यूल में देखेंगे. फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स. So students, remember there are 5 fundamental principles of professional ethics. There are 5 fundamental principles of professional ethics. Now, what are these principles? First of all, you have to remember name of all these principles. Then you have to understand their meaning, and remember their technical definition which is written in your module, which is very very important. तो आपको याद करनी पड़ेगी कि उस प्रिंसिपल का क्या मतलब है. ओके, सो फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल इज इंटेग्रिटी. Second principle is objectivity. Third principle is professional competence and due care. Yes, Suman, you can make any acronym. Professional competence and due care. Okay. And fourth principle is confidentiality. And fifth is professional behavior. सो ये 5 प्रिंसिपल्स हैं स्टूडेंट्स. ये आपको इनके नाम भी याद रखने हैं और इनका मतलब भी आपको याद रखना है. उसकी जो मॉड्यूल में आपकी टेक्निकल मीनिंग इसका लिखा हुआ है वो आपको इसको उन लाइंस को रिमेंबर करना है कि क्या मतलब है इसका. इस पे स्टूडेंट्स एमसीक्यू, डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चन, इस एरिया में से एक सर्टेनिटी आप समझ के चले जरूर आएगा. वी होप सो. ओके, सो इंटेग्रिटी. सो इंटेग्रिटी का जनरल मीनिंग क्या है स्टूडेंट्स? इंटेग्रिटी, जब जब एक किसी को हम कहते हैं कि ही इज ए पर्सन ऑफ इंटेग्रिटी, क्या मतलब है? सो इट मीन्स दैट ही integrity, the principle of integrity requires that a person shall be honest and truthful in his dealings with the client. He shall be straightforward in his dealings with the client. He would make the things clear to him. Okay, and और वो किसी भी ऐसी रिपोर्ट, किसी ऐसी सर्टिफिकेट के साथ एसोसिएटेड नहीं होगा जो कि झूठी हैं, विच आर फॉल्स, या वो कोई ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन छुपाती हैं जो कि मिसलीडिंग हो सके. कुछ ऐसी देर आर सच, देर कैन बी द सर्टिफिकेट्स और द रिपोर्ट्स कैन बी गिवन इन सच ए वे दैट दीज hide some material information. So such reports or such certificates, they can be misleading. So if the auditor is knowingly doing such acts, then he is violating the principle of integrity. Okay, suppose suppose a client comes to Mr. X and he requests him to give a certificate of say value of plant and machinery which is appearing in his records. Okay, so assume that the client has to pay certain fees to certain government departments depending upon the value of plant and machinery. Okay, now if the value of plant and machinery is shown is high, then fees is more, and if value of plant and machinery is less, then fees is less. So the say the value of plant, the chartered accountant gives a false certificate, and he saves fees for his client, which he has to deposit with the government department. So what he is doing in this case, he is being associated, he is being associating himself with a certificate which is patently false. So he is violating the principles of integrity. So he is violating the principle of integrity. And what is objectivity, students? What is objectivity? Yes. What is objectivity? Objectivity means to look at the things objectively without being biased, to take a decision on the basis of facts as these are, as these stand out. Okay. So this is the hallmark of principle of objectivity. Now, professional competence and due care. What does this mean? प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर का मतलब है कि आपने क्लाइंट के साथ डील करते हुए द ऑडिटर वुड advise him professionally, keeping in view the knowledge he has about that particular area, keeping in view the latest knowledge which he has about in particular area. So he would act diligently. So diligently क्या मतलब होता है? Yes, Rituraj, you are saying correctly. Objectivity is opposite of subjectivity. Yes. So diligently का क्या मतलब होता है स्टूडेंट? Diligently का मतलब होता है सब कुछ सोच विचार के उसको बताएगा कि आप ऐसे कीजिए. Okay, that this is the right way of doing the things. So ये नहीं है कि कोई मटेरियल से लॉ में कोई चीज रिक्वायर्ड है करने के लिए और क्लाइंट को पता ही नहीं और आपने उसको एडवाइस भी नहीं किया. सो यू आर नॉट एक्टिंग इन ए वे विच इज प्रोफेशनली कॉम्पिटेंट. So you are not acting in a way which is professionally competent, and you have not exercised due care also. And fourth principle is confidentiality. Fourth principle is confidentiality. Now, what is confidentiality? Confidentiality means कि अपने क्लाइंट का काम करते हुए जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन आपके पास आती है, you would maintain confidentiality about it. So this is also one of the fundamental principle of professional ethics, that whatever information you acquire as a result of dealing with your client, you would keep such information as confidential. You would not part with such information. You would not allow such information to be used elsewhere, to be used for somebody else benefit. Okay. Suppose students that you are auditing. I give you an example. Suppose you are auditing the financial statements of a company which is engaged in export business. Okay. So, and as part of your duties, you come to know obviously details of overseas buyers to whom the company is selling the goods. And as part of your duty, you also have in your possession the addresses of those buyers. Say there is a competitor of this exporter company who also happens to be your client, and suppose you provide those addresses of the company to his competitor. So are you acting ethically? So are you acting ethically? No, you are not acting ethically. Why? Because you are violating the principle of confidentiality. आपने कोई गलत साइन नहीं किया, आपने गलत रिपोर्ट साइन नहीं की, आपने कोई डिसीजन सब्जेक्टिवली नहीं लिया, आपका कोई प्रोफेशनल नॉलेज का इश्यू इन्वॉल्व नहीं है, प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस का इश्यू इन्वॉल्व नहीं है, लेकिन इन्वॉल्व क्या है? आपने कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी को तोड़ा है. ओके, आपने कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी को तोड़ा है. आपने वो इंफॉर्मेशन जो क्लाइंट की कॉन्फिडेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन थी उसको यूज करते हुए किसी और आदमी को फायदा पहुंचाने की कोशिश की है. सो यू आर ब्रेकिंग द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ confidentiality. You are violating the principle of confidentiality. Clear, students? Like, take another example. So say you go to a bank for audit. Okay, अभी हमने बैंक ऑडिट का चैप्टर पढ़ा है. So you go to a bank for audit, so obviously you would be acquiring a lot of information in respect of customers of branch, in respect of borrowers, because you would be going through all the files relating to borrowers. You would be going through all the loan documentation, so you come to know about the whereabouts, about the dealings, about the nature of business of the various clients, of the various customers of the bank. And say, assume that you somehow misuse this information. So what you are doing? You are again violating the principle of confidentiality. Okay. Yes, Sushil Kumar Barracks, you are saying to explain again the meaning of integrity. Integrity का मतलब है, आप सुशील कुमार इसको ये समझने की कोशिश करें. इंटीग्रिटी का मतलब है कि जो सीए है, जो ऑडिटर है, वो नोइंगली किसी ऐसी रिपोर्ट के साथ, किसी ऐसे सर्टिफिकेट के साथ उस पे साइन नहीं करेगा, उसके साथ एसोसिएटेड नहीं होगा जो कि गलत है, जो कि झूठा है. ओके, या जिसमें कोई ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन छुपाई गई है जिससे कि वो मिसलीडिंग बन जाए. ओके, इज इट क्लियर? यस, सुशील कुमार बारिक, इज इट क्लियर टू यू? Yes, students, integrity, objectivity, professional competence, confidentiality, these four principles are clear to you, students. Now we come to professional behavior. Now, what is the meaning of professional behavior? प्रोफेशनल बिहेवियर का मतलब है स्टूडेंट्स कि कोई भी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जो है अपनी पब्लिक लाइफ में इस तरह का बिहेवियर नहीं करेगा जिससे कि प्रोफेशन पे डिसरिप्यूट आए, डिसरिप्यूट आए। for which the name of profession, for which the profession gets a bad name. So he would not do any such acts which would bring disrepute to the profession. Okay. Suppose, take an example. You as a chartered accountant, you go to some authority, you go to some department. Okay. You go to some government department on behalf of your client. Say there is, while presenting the case of your client, say there are, the authority or the person who you are dealing with, he does not agree with your point of view, and you start to engage uh, in a verbal abuse with him. ठीक है, आप उससे गाली गलौज पे उतर आए और आपकी हाथापाई की नौबत आ गई. सो द मैटर गोज टू हायर अथॉरिटीज. सो आर यू एक्टिंग एथिकली? Haven't by indulging in such acts, haven't you brought disrepute to the profession? So shouldn't such things not be avoided by you, because these are bringing disrepute to the profession, these are bringing bad name to the profession. So this is what we mean by professional behavior. This is what we mean by professional behavior. तो स्टूडेंट्स, आपको पांचों प्रिंसिपल्स का ब्रॉड मीनिंग, ब्रॉड आउटव्यू समझ में आ गया? यस, अशोक खारियाल, यू आर सेइंग, should we remember these principles in a sequence? There is no such requirement, but it is better if you remember these in a sequence. Even if you do not remember these in a sequence, these won't affect. Okay. But it is better if you remember these in a sequence, because this is how these have been stated in the code. Okay. But the important point is that you have to be very clear about the meaning and scope of these fundamental principles of professional ethics. So students, एक तो अब पांचों प्रिंसिपल्स का आपको जो है वो नाम याद रखना है क्या है, और उनका मीनिंग याद रखना है. सो पांचों प्रिंसिपल्स का आप फटाफट स्टूडेंट्स स्टार्ट करने से पहले आप मेल करें मेरे को, पांचों प्रिंसिपल्स का नाम क्या है, व्हाट आर द 5 प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स. क्विकली mail me what are the 5 principles of professional ethics. Mail me. एटलीस्ट स्टूडेंट्स, ताकि आपको नाम अभी ही याद हो जाए. मॉड्यूल में से मत देखिए, मॉड्यूल में से मत देखिए. एंड एवरी वन ऑफ यू who is listening to me, he should mail. Yes, every one of you who is listening, who is watching, he should mail. पांचों प्रिंसिपल्स का नाम लिख के भेजिए. व्हाट आर द 5 फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स करेक्टली. यस. यस गौरव, यू हैव रिटन. लेकिन एक प्रिंसिपल अब भूल गए, बीच में 4 लिखे हैं आपने. कादम्बरी, आपने भी 4 लिखे हैं, आप एक भूल गए. यस, व्हाट अबाउट अदर्स. तो स्टूडेंट्स, ये पांचों नाम आपको अच्छी तरह से याद करने पड़ेंगे. आप एक बार करोगे कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे, एक नाम की जगह दूसरा नाम लिख बैठोगे, फिर कई बार एक का मीनिंग दूसरे में मिक्स कर दोगे. यस. यस, व्हाट अबाउट अदर स्टूडेंट्स क्विकली. Yes, Sushil Kumar Barik, you have written only 3. What about other 2? Yes, Harish Chandar, you are writing correctly. Yuvraj Joshi, you have also missed out on one. Yes, Rituraj, you have also. Yes, it's a good way to remember, Rituraj. You are saying OPC, objectivity, professional behavior, confidentiality. Yes, good one. Prajakta and Biswajit Panda. Yes, you have also written correctly. So remember the names of 5 principles of professional ethics. Integrity, again I am repeating it. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and last is professional behavior. And last is professional behavior. Yes, Sushil Kumar Barik, yes, you have written 3 principles: integrity, objectivity, professional competence. Professional, remember to write complete name. It is not professional competence only, it is professional competence and due care. And fourth one is confidentiality, and professional, fifth is professional behavior. So this is the diagram which is given in sketch, which is given in your module: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and प्रोफेशनल बिहेवियर. कई बार स्टूडेंट्स आसान क्वेश्चन भी आ जाते हैं. आई रिमेंबर दैट in one final CA final paper, you were students were asked to write the meaning of all these 5 principles. It was a 5-mark question there. So sometimes easy questions also come. Or you can have a question in your exam like, what is understood by the principle of confidentiality? Or say what is meant by the principle of objectivity? Okay. So what is the meaning of integrity? Now, as per your module, a professional accountant shall comply. So when we use the word professional accountant, it means CA, auditor. So professional accountant means a person who is qualified accountant, who is a qualified person, who is a chartered accountant, shall comply with the principle of integrity, which requires an accountant to be straightforward and honest in all his professional and business relationships. तो यही चीज हमने डिस्कस की थी. And integrity implies fair dealing and truthfulness. A professional accountant shall not knowingly be associated with report, returns, communications, or other informations. So it not only includes reports, but any kind of document, returns, communications, or other information. Where the accountant believes that the information contains a materially false or misleading statement, or contains statements or information provided negligently, or omits or obscure required information where such omission or obscurity would be misleading. Obscure का भी क्या मतलब होता है स्टूडेंट्स? छुपाना. Obscure का भी मतलब होता है to hide. Okay. So a professional accountant shall not knowingly be associated with the reports, with returns, with communications which he believes contain a materially false or misleading statement. So they would not associate their names, they would not sign such reports, they would not sign such returns which contains a materially false or misleading statement. Although it is not false, but it could be misleading. So that users who are relying upon that statement, who are relying upon that report, they draw a different conclusion that was required, then that was intended. Okay. Or where such reports provide information negligently or omits or obscure required information, that such omission or obscurity would be misleading. कि आप कुछ उसमें से ऐसी चीज छुपा जाते हो कि जो यूजर है उसका, वो उसके लिए वो मिसलीडिंग बन जाती है, वो उसका कुछ और मतलब निकाल लेता है. सो when an accountant indulges in any of such acts, then he would be violating what? He would be violating principle of integrity. Okay. Yes, Sushil, you are writing 5 fundamental principle of ethics: integrity, objectivity. Third principle is professional competence and due care. पूरा नाम आपको लिखना पड़ेगा. It is not only professional competence, it is professional competence and due care. and fourth one is confidentiality, and fifth is professional behavior. And second is objectivity. The principle of objectivity requires an auditor not to compromise professional judgment because of bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence of others. ओके कि जो भी उसका कोई भी डिसीजन लेना है ऑडिटर को या चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को, तो ही शुड टेक दैट डिसीजन इंडिपेंडेंटली without being influenced by others. So this is objectivity in certain ways is related to independence. Okay, so if I am taking decision without being influenced by others or without having any conflict of interest, then I am taking that decision objectively. Then I am taking that decision on the basis of the facts, on the basis of objective information which stand. Okay. Clear? Objectivity का meaning clear है students? So professional competence and due care. A professional accountant shall comply with the principle of professional competence and due care, which requires an accountant to attain and maintain professional knowledge and skill at the level required to ensure that a client or employing organization receives competent professional service based on current technical and professional standards and relevant legislation, and act diligently and in accordance with applicable technical and professional standards. तो इस सारे का क्या मतलब है स्टूडेंट, इस प्रिंसिपल का, कि जो अकाउंटेंट, जो प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटेंट है, जो सीए है, जो ऑडिटर है, ही वुड एडवाइज हिज क्लाइंट इन अकॉर्डेंस with professional knowledge and skill which he has acquired, which he has attained. So he shall advise not only in accordance with the knowledge which he has acquired, but he shall also maintain that knowledge. So there are two words, students, attain and maintain. So maintain means that he would continuously keep himself updated about changes which are taking place in the field on which he is advising. He would keep himself abreast of the developments which are taking place, so that the client to whom he is advising, he is getting the latest, the competent professional information based upon the current technical and professional standards and relevant legislation and relevant requirements of law. Suppose आप अपने क्लाइंट को कोई बता रहे हो और लॉ 2 साल पहले चेंज हो चुका है, और आप उसको कोई 2 साल पहले की चीज बता रहे हो. So then in that situation, you are not acting with professional competence. You are violating this principle. In such a situation, you would be violating principle of professional competence and due care. Yes, clear students? Is this clear? And diligence includes responsibility to act carefully, thoroughly, and on a timely basis in accordance with the basis requirements of an assignment. कि हर एक काम आप सोच समझ के करेंगे with proper diligence. Yes, Suman, you are saying, does it mean CA will advise? Yes, if he is in that position, it would be, if he is in the capacity of consultant, he would advise. Similarly, if he is a taxation advisor, he would advise his client accordingly. Okay. Yes, Lavanya, you are saying, please, professional competence and due care again. So आपको इतना समझना है लावण्या, you have to understand that the auditor, the chartered accountant, he would, number one, you have to understand that he is a professionally qualified person. So he has attained a certain level of knowledge, certain level of professional knowledge. So he would advise his client not only on the basis of knowledge which he has attained, but he would also at all times keep himself updated of the current developments, of the current changes in the law which are taking place in the areas in which he is advising the client. He would always give a professional advice, keeping in view current professional knowledge and skill required. Okay. And he would always do such things diligently after due deliberation, after taking into account all the aspects. Yes, is it clear? Lavanya, yes, Lavanya, is it clear? Confidentiality. Now, fourth principle is confidentiality. So, confidentiality principle requires a professional accountant to respect the confidentiality of information acquired as a result of professional or business relationships. So, any information which comes to you by virtue of your professional relationship, by virtue of your professional relationship of being associated with the client, you gather such information, you happen to come across such information, then you would maintain confidentiality of such information. So like in case of bank audits, I had given you example. So in while banks send their offer letters to the auditor students, they also include a para that you would not divulge the information which you have acquired by virtue of being associated with the work of bank as an auditor. Okay. So what they are trying to expect from you, they are trying to expect that you maintain the confidentiality, that you maintain the confidentiality principle. Okay. So confidentiality serves the public interest because it facilitates the free flow of information from professional accountant's client or employing organization to the accountant with the understanding that information will not be disclosed to a third party. Now, how confidentiality is important? Say, since the society at large knows that a chartered accountant would keep the information which he has acquired as a result of dealing with the client, they would keep such information confidential. So they are in a position to give you information freely. Why? Because they trust you. If they have any doubt that such information would be disclosed to a third party, then they may be hesitant. They may not be willing to provide you such information, and in the process, it may hamper your professional work. So that is the importance of confidentiality principle. That is the importance of confidentiality principle. However, but there is a caveat. However, such confidential information may be disclosed, for example, when it is required by law or when it is permitted by law and is authorized by the client or employer. So ये तो स्टूडेंट्स मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया हुआ है. If something is required under law, then it can always be done because we presume that law is right. It is the law of the land. Okay. So if such disclosure of confidential information is required by law or if it is permitted by client, then such disclosure of confidential information can be made. Okay. Now, fifth is professional behavior. So, like जो स्टूडेंट्स मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया था, दैट चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट एंड ऑडिटर, ए प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटेंट, he shall not do any such thing which brings disrepute to the profession as a whole. So this principle requires an accountant to comply with relevant laws and regulations and avoid any conduct that the accountant knows or should know might discredit the profession. A professional accountant shall not knowingly engage in any occupation or activity that impairs or might impairs the integrity, objectivity, or good reputation of profession, and as a result would be incompatible with fundamental principles. कि वो किसी भी ऐसी एक्टिविटी में इन्वॉल्व नहीं होगा जो कि प्रोफेशन की गुड रेपुटेशन को खराब करती है या इंटीग्रिटी या ऑब्जेक्टिविटी को खराब करती है. सो दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ प्रोफेशनल बिहेवियर. Yes, students, is it okay? So let's take a break for 10 minutes. So आपके भी, ताकि दिमाग में ये सब चीजें एसिमिलेट हो जाए. और 10 मिनट बाद मिलते हैं स्टूडेंट्स, शॉर्ट ब्रेक के बाद. सो सी यू आफ्टर 10 minutes break. Yes, break for 10 minutes. Yes, welcome back, students. So now we come to the concept of independence of auditors. So, students, since chapter 1, we have been reading about this term independence. We have been reading about this concept of independence. So while learning our first definition, while learning about meaning of audit in chapter 1, we had understood that audit is an independent examination of financial information of an entity. Remember, students? So we had learned that an audit is an independent examination of financial information of an entity. So what does this independence mean? So independence means that an auditor is able to do his work without being influenced by others, without getting directions from others, without being directed. That he would do his work on the keeping in mind objectivity. He would not be involved in conflict of interest. So independence is directly related to the objectivity principle of which forms bedrock of fundamental principles governing professional ethics. Yes, Hemlata, you are right. So students, you have to understand that this concept, independence of auditors, this has two facets. इसके दो रूप हैं, जिसको कह सकते हैं हिंदी में दो आयाम हैं, ये भी कह सकते हैं. इट हैज गॉट टू डायमेंशंस. सो इट हैज गॉट टू डायमेंशंस. One is independence in mind, and one is independence in appearance. So, auditor has to be careful about both of these dimensions, about both of these aspects. Okay. So independence in mind means, students, that what we have studied while understanding the meaning of ethics. So the auditor has to always keep in his mind that he has to remain independent. He has always to keep in his mind that he would exercise his professional judgment without being influenced by others, that he would not take directions from others, that he would take decisions on the basis of objective facts, on the basis of facts as these are. So we say that independence is a state of mind, that auditor has to be independent in mind. Okay. And another thing is, another dimension, another aspect of this concept of independence is independence in appearance. Independence in appearance. Now, what is the meaning of this? Yes, can you tell students from your common sense, what can we understand by saying that an auditor should be independent in appearance? इसका क्या मतलब हो सकता है? सोच के देखिए, आप जरा सोच के बताइए मेरे को. What can we mean by that? That an auditor has to be independent in appearance. What is the meaning of this dimension of independence in appearance? Just think over it. Without referring to your module, just think over it. What could be the meaning of this? Yes, independence in appearance. Yes, Suman has written, she is writing, he should not be looking a part of management behavior. Please. What about others? Yes, anyone? So independence in appearance. Yes, any one of you students who can see, just write one line about it. What can we mean by independence in appearance? When we say that auditor has not only to be independent in mind, but he has to be independent in appearance also. Now, what does this basically mean? What does this basically imply? Yes, Himlata, you are writing avoidance of circumstances, but what kind of circumstances? Somesh Sawant, you are writing decision making. Okay, that's true, but what does this mean in context of the, more particularly in context of these two words, in appearance? इंडिपेंडेंस तो है, इन अपीयरेंस का क्या मतलब है? So in appearance, when we say that an auditor should be independent in appearance, it means that not only he should act independently, but to other persons, but to third persons, he should appear to be independent. Yes. Yes, outsiders should be able to distinguish him separate from management. Yes, that's true. Sanjana Ben, in the opinion of others, he is independent. Yes, that's also true. Say, if I am working, I am doing something independently. Although I am doing something independently, I am not influenced by others, but I am behaving in such a way that it looks to the third parties that I am not independent. Okay. So this is, yes, Jagpati, you are writing auditor appointment is not in favor of third party or buyer. No. So try to understand what I am saying. Say I am independent in my dealings. While I am performing audit, I am independent in my relationship with the client. But that is between the client and me. However, I simultaneously I am also doing some acts. I am also doing some activities which is giving a wrong message to the outsiders, which is giving a wrong message to the users. So by doing such activities, I am not independent in my appearance. I am giving a wrong signal to the outsiders, to the third parties, that I am not independent, whereas actually I am independent. So the auditor has to avoid such activities, such acts. These such type of acts also constitute threats to his independence. Therefore, we say that there are two perspectives of the concept of independence of auditors. One is independence in mind. Look, I would perform all my professional work with independence. I would conduct audit independently without being influenced by any extraneous factors. One is this aspect, and other aspect is that I have also to be looked as independent persons by third parties. I should not do any act which would appear to compromise on my independence. Okay, क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? आपको इसका मतलब समझ आ गया? सो ये दोनों कंसेप्ट जो है, जो दोनों पर्सपेक्टिव जो है इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ ऑडिटर के, ये एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए हैं. दीज आर बोथ इंटरलिंक्ड. These are both interlinked. Say I give you an example. Say if I am auditor of a company and and assume that the company is launching a new product, and say the company arranges a PC, company arranges a press conference to promote its products, and the company also invites me to the press conference. I also say I also say praiseful words about the products of the company, about the financial achievements of the company, and I also highlight the fact that I am auditor of the company. Okay. So in such a case, what I am doing, I am indulging in such activities which are compromising on my independence. I am indulging, I am allowing myself to be indulged in such activities which are compromising on my independence. So therefore, to outsiders, I am not looking as an independent person. So they may get impression in their minds that this person is not an independent person. Yeah, same Lata, probably you get the answer to your question. So these are type of things which an auditor should not indulge in, to maintain his independence. So independence in mind is very important, and along with it independence in appearance is also very important. Like saying in the language of law, students, we always say that justice should not only be done but it should appear to be done. आपने ये सुनी होगी ऑफ ऑफन रिपीटेड लाइन, सुनिए ना सब लोग आपने ये लाइन, दिस लाइन यू माइट हैव हर्ड स्टूडेंट्स, दैट जस्टिस शुड नॉट ओनली बी डन बट शुड अपीयर टू बी डन ऑल्सो, ताकि जो जस्टिस के खाली होना ही नहीं चाहिए लेकिन लोगों को लगना भी चाहिए, या जो पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व हैं उनको लगना भी चाहिए कि जस्टिस हुआ है. सो ऐसे ही the auditor should not only act independently but to others, but for others it should appear to them, it should appear to the third parties that he has acted independently, that he has acted independently. Yes, Rituraj, you are saying I heard it now. So this is very common line, Rituraj, very common refrain in legal circles. कभी भी आपने कोई भी डिबेट सुनी हो, कभी कुछ सुना हो, तो उसमें this is common, often repeated line that justice should not only be done but should appear to be done also. सो क्लियर है स्टूडेंट्स, एक जनरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग आपको मिल गई. यू हैव गॉट ए जनरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ व्हाट डज इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ ऑडिटर्स मीन एंड व्हाट आर द different dimensions, what are the two dimensions of concept of independence of auditors. Yes, इज इट क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? सो आप मॉड्यूल में देख लेते हैं आपकी. तो स्टूडेंट्स कई चीजें वाइल कई चीजें मैं आपको एग्जाम्पल्स अलग अलग चीजों से देता हूं, लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि वो सारी की सारी चीजें आपको एग्जाम में लिखनी है. लाइक जैसे मैंने आपको बोला, जस्टिस हैज नॉट ओनली बी डन बट शुड appear to be done also. So these all things are for the purpose of enhancing your understanding, for purpose of making things clear to you. Okay. So independence, students, independence implies that judgment of a person is not subordinate to the wishes or directions of another person who might have engaged him or to his own self-interest. ठीक है, तो इंडिपेंडेंस का क्या मतलब है? द जजमेंट ऑफ ए पर्सन इज नॉट सबऑर्डिनेट, इज नॉट डिपेंडेंट to the wishes or directions of another person who might have engaged him. So अगर कंपनी ने आपको एंगेज किया है, तो अगर आप कंपनी की डायरेक्शंस पे ही आप काम कर रहे हैं, तो आप कैसे इंडिपेंडेंट रहे? और टू हिज ऑन सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. अगर अगर उसमें उसका सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट इन्वॉल्व है, तो भी वो आदमी कैसे इंडिपेंडेंट रहेगा? सपोज स्टूडेंट्स टेल मी, अब आपने कंपनी लॉ में पढ़ा है, यू हैव रेड इन कंपनी लॉ दैट an auditor cannot hold shares of a company, of the company which he is auditing. अगर जिस कंपनी का वो ऑडिटर है उसमें वो शेयर होल्डर नहीं हो सकता। पढ़ा है ना आपने, डिसक्वालिफिकेशन पढ़ी है ना ऑडिटर की? यस यस स्टूडेंट्स, हैव यू रेड? तो ये ऐसा क्यों है? व्हाई इट इज सो? व्हाई इट इज सो? यस स्टूडेंट्स, हैव यू थॉट अबाउट इट? व्हाई इट इज सो? Why it is so? That it is written in the law, it is provided in the Companies Act that an auditor cannot be shareholder of the very company he is auditing. Why this requirement is so? Yes. So students, this requirement is there because it it impairs, it compromises the independence of auditors. It creates a threat. सो अगर ऑडिटर ही शेयर होल्डर है, जिस कंपनी का वो ऑडिट कर रहा है वो ही शेयर होल्डर है, तो उसका तो कंपनी के वेल बींग में इंटरेस्ट है। वो अपनी, हाउ ही कैन गिव हिज इंडिपेंडेंट रिपोर्ट? बिकॉज he becomes a part owner. Yes, Rituraj, you are saying correctly. Because his stake in the company will make him give a biased opinion. Yes, you are right. So, Prajakta, you are writing a CA is invited to private event of a management position as they have discussed, as they have developed a relationship. So, this is of no issue. So, students, आप इतना समझिए कि इंडिपेंडेंस जो है ये कंसेप्ट है, ये इसको आप इसको कंपार्टमेंटलाइज नहीं कर सकते कि ये चीज इंडिपेंडेंट है, ये चीज इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं है। इट हैज टू बी इवेल्युएटेड डिपेंडिंग अपॉन एवरी सिचुएशन। ओके, अब मान लीजिए कोई कंपनी का ऑडिटर है और दे दे इनवाइट हिम टू देयर, द कंपनी इनवाइट्स टू द ऑडिटर टू सम सोशल गैदरिंग, तो इसमें क्या अर्ज है? उसकी उसकी उससे कोई इंडिपेंडेंस पे थोड़ा फर्क पड़ रहा है। लेकिन द टाइप ऑफ एग्जाम्पल विच आई हैड गिवन टू यू, हियर द here the auditor was, he was promoting the product of the company. Okay, and simultaneously he was also boasting of that he was the auditor of the company. So it creates a kind of threat to the independence of auditor. Okay, yes Suman, you are also right. Yes, all others you are writing correctly. Harish Chandra, Nikita, Soumya Kumari, all you are writing correctly. So, because the auditor, because having a shareholding in the company would impact upon his independence, would erode his independence. That is why there is requirement in the Companies Act 2013 regarding such disqualification. Yes, Sahu, Hemlata, all of you are writing correctly. So again, it is not possible to define independence precisely. So क्या चीज इंडिपेंडेंट है, क्या चीज नहीं है, उसको एक डेफिनेशन में मतलब एक कॉम्पैक्ट चीज में उसको एक्सप्लेन करना मुश्किल है. रूल्स ऑफ प्रोफेशनल कंडक्ट dealing with independence are framed primarily with a certain objectives. The rules by themselves cannot create or ensure the existence of independence. Independence is a condition of mind as well as personal character and should not be confused with superficial and visible standards of independence which are sometimes imposed by law. These legal standards may be relaxed or strengthened, but the quality of independence remains unaltered. Okay. So, ये वही चीज है स्टूडेंट्स जो हमने एथिक्स के स्टार्टिंग में पढ़ा था. That ethics is a state of mind and while following ethics, principles based approach has to be followed. So all these things are derived from there. So remember, it is not possible to define independence, to compartmentalize the definition of independence. So it is a state of mind. It is a condition of mind. It is my attitude. It is ingrained in me. It is a question of character. It is a question of professional values. लॉ में हो सकता है कुछ चीजें लिखी हूं, कुछ नहीं लिखी हूं, बट independence is much more than that. So you have to understand it that way. Okay. So there are two interlinked perspectives. There are two interlinked perspectives of independence of auditors. One is independence of mind and another is independence in appearance. Okay. So one is independence in mind, another is independence in appearance. So what is independence in mind? Independence in mind is the state of mind, like what we have written, what we have understood previously. It is an attitude. It is a state of mind that permits the provision of and formation of opinion without being affected by influences that compromise professional judgment, allowing an individual to act with integrity, professional skepticism, and exercise objectivity. So, वही चीज है कि इंडिपेंडेंस इन माइंड का मतलब है कि मेरा एटीट्यूड ही ऐसा होना चाहिए दैट आई वुड एक्ट इंडिपेंडेंटली विदाउट बीइंग बायस्ड, दैट विदाउट that without losing my integrity, I would always act independently by seeing the things, by doing the things diligently with professional skepticism. Okay. And independence in appearance. What does this mean? Independence in appearance. It means the avoidance of facts and circumstances that are so significant that a reasonable and informed third party having knowledge of relevant information would reasonably conclude a firm's or member of assurance team's integrity, objectivity, or professional skepticism has been compromised. So वही बात है टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज में लिखी हुई है जो हमने समझी है, that independence in appearance means that the auditor has to avoid doing such things, that an auditor has to avoid doing, has to avoid such circumstances by which a reasonable and informed third party having knowledge of relevant information, he concludes that this auditor's integrity or objectivity has been compromised, that he may not take decisions in an objective manner, that he is not an independent person, that other parties may feel so, that a message goes to them by virtue of an auditor being involved in such type of circumstances or such type of acts. So this is called as independence in appearance. Okay. So again, independence of the auditor has not only to exist in fact, but also appear so exist to all persons. So independence, उसको खाली ऑडिटर को इंडिपेंडेंट होना नहीं है, लेकिन दूसरे लोगों को भी लगना चाहिए कि वो इंडिपेंडेंट है. So again, this concept is repeated. So independence of auditor assumes significance in context of providing confidence to users of financial statements. As statutory auditor of a listed company, for example, the CA would cease to perform any useful function if persons who rely upon the accounts of company do not have faith in the integrity and independence of chartered accountant. Say if the users of financial statements, they lose the faith in the financial statements, their trust is broken because the auditor is doing some things which make them feel that the auditor is not an independent person. So this is done to avoid all such things. Okay. So again all these things are repeated. Yes students, ये कंसेप्ट क्लियर है आपको इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ ऑडिटर का, और इसके जो दो पर्सपेक्टिव है, इंडिपेंडेंस इन माइंड और इंडिपेंडेंस इन अपीयरेंस. यस, इज द कंसेप्ट क्लियर टू यू? यस, टेल मी स्टूडेंट्स, इज द कंसेप्ट क्लियर टू यू? Yes students, tell me. Now we have done it in considerable detailed manner. I don't think there should be any doubt in minds of anyone. Yes. You are saying it's clear. So students, related to concept of independence is another topic which goes under the name of threats to independence. Now this topic is also very important. Yes, Suman will take up few MCQs at appropriate time. So threats to independence. So this topic is also important from examination point of view. So Nancy, you are asking in which head of income payment of auditor goes? Audit fees, Nancy. It is a separate head, audit fees. So, so what are threats to independence of auditors? What do we mean by threats? Yes, what do we mean by threats? So threats का मतलब है when students, when certain situations arise by which independence of auditors is or it can be compromised, it is impaired. There is, in such situation, there is a danger to independence of auditors. So such situations are called as threats to independence of auditors. Such situations, such circumstances are called as threats to independence of auditor. Threat means khatra, danger. So there are 5 threats, students. There are 5 threats to independence of auditors. Like there are 5 fundamental principles governing professional ethics. So remember, there are also 5 threats to independence of auditors. And most important thing, students, also remember that whenever there is a threat to independence of auditors, it doesn't mean uh, that everything is lost. Then auditor has to apply necessary safeguards to reduce the threat to an acceptable level. If he cannot reduce the threat, or if its elimination is warranted, he is not in a position to eliminate the threat, then he should only withdraw from the engagement. Okay. Otherwise, he can take steps, he can take safeguards, and which we call in the auditing language as mitigating factors. Mitigating factors. So the meaning of mitigate is reduce, to reduce, to reduce the intensity of something. So the auditor has to see what could be the mitigating factors, and he has to act accordingly. So in the context of threats, you have to understand this much, you have to understand it in these ways. Okay. So there are 5 threats to independence of auditors. So remember their names. All these are very important from examination point of view. हर बार इनमें से कोई ना कोई क्वेश्चन आता है. चाहे एमसीक्यू में आए, केस स्टडी में आए, या आपका डिस्क्रिप्टिव में आए, कि किसी भी फॉर्म में आ सकता है. ओके, सो रिमेंबर देयर नेम्स एंड वी शैल अंडरस्टैंड देयर मीनिंग जनरली before before we read from your module. So first kind of threats are self interest threats. So second kind of threats are self review threats. Third type of threats are advocacy threats. Fourth are familiarity threats. And fifth are intimidation threats. तो पांचों के आपको नाम याद रखने हैं, मतलब याद रखना है स्टूडेंट्स. ये भी जो टॉपिक है थ्रेट्स का, ये भी काफी वाइड है, लेकिन आपके इंटरमीडिएट लेवल पे आपको इसको एक बेसिक लेवल पे, कॉन्डेंस्ड लेवल पे आपको इसको समझना है. थ्रेट्स जो हैं कोड ऑफ एथिक्स में डिटेल्ड मैनर में इनको एक्सप्लेन किया गया है, और डिफरेंट सिचुएशंस भी बताई गई हैं कि किस सिचुएशन में कौन सी थ्रेट हो सकती है. इसलिए आपको बहुत डिटेलिंग में नहीं जाना, आपको बेसिक मीनिंग इसका अंडरस्टैंड करना है इंटरमीडिएट लेवल पे, जो कि आपके सिलेबस में है. सो सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट थ्रेट्स क्या होती हैं स्टूडेंट्स? जनरली मैं एक बार बता देता हूं, बाकी फिर जो है इसका मॉड्यूल में जो पार्ट है वो हम नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में करेंगे. सो सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट थ्रेट्स होती हैं जहां पे जिन सिचुएशंस में ऑडिटर का सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट इन्वॉल्व हो जाता है. लाइक we are talked about the auditor of a company holding shares in the company. So in such a case, self interest is involved. So such situation is pointing is creating a self interest threat. Such a situation is creating a self interest threat for the auditor, because if he happens to hold shares of the company, then his independence is going to be affected because of his self interest. So such kind of threats are known as self interest threats. And second is self review threats. Self review threats mean such threats which involve a situation which create a threat to the independence of auditor by virtue of his review of work. उसका अपना काम खुद का ही अगर उसको रिव्यू करना पड़े, तो क्या क्या ऑडिटर जो है इंडिपेंडेंट रह पाएगा? सो इसी वजह से स्टूडेंट्स जो ये कंडीशन है कि जो इंटरनल ऑडिटर है वो स्टेचुटरी ऑडिटर नहीं हो सकता. इंटरनल ऑडिटर है तो वो स्टेचुटरी ऑडिटर नहीं हो सकता. क्यों? क्योंकि उस सिचुएशन में क्या होगा, उसका सेल्फ रिव्यू इन्वॉल्व हो जाएगा. जो काम एज इंटरनल ऑडिटर किया है, तो क्या वही उसी काम को, उन्हीं फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को वो रिव्यू करेगा. सो इट इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ self-review threats. Self-review threats. Advocacy threats. Now, advocacy threats क्या है? Advocacy threats are those threats where a client is seen to be promoting the company's interests, where he becomes advocate of company's interests. Advocate, you need not understand in a literal sense कि वो कहने का मतलब है कि वो हर एक बात पे कंपनी का वकील ना बन जाए, कि हर एक बात पे कंपनी के इंटरेस्ट को फोरग्राउंड पे ना रखे. अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन है तो वो उसके लिए एडवोकेसी थ्रेट कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करेगी. लाइक मैंने आपको एक एग्जांपल दिया था कि कंपनी ने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की और अपने प्रोडक्ट को प्रमोट करने के लिए उसने ऑडिटर को भी बुला लिया, और ऑडिटर भी प्रोडक्ट्स को प्रमोट कर रहा है और ये भी कह रहा है कि मैं कंपनी का ऑडिटर हूं. ओके, by his actions. So these kind of threats are known as advocacy threats. Fourth is familiarity threats. Familiarity threats means such situations where an auditor becomes too sympathetic to the interests of the client. Why? Because he has become very much familiar with the client's operations. He knows the clients. So he doesn't remain alert while performing his work. So he has become used to the systems, to the procedures, to the style of working of the client. So such situations create familiarity threats. Like students, so there is an example in the there is a provision in the Companies Act regarding rotation of auditors. है ना स्टूडेंट्स, एक प्रोविजन रोटेशन ऑफ ऑडिटर्स का. सो रोटेशन ऑफ ऑडिटर्स में है कि एक स्टिपुलेटेड पीरियड के बाद से एक फर्म है तो उसको कॉन्सेक्यूटिव दो टर्म्स, 5 साल की 2 टर्म्स के बाद, या इंडिविजुअल है तो 5 साल की टर्म के बाद उसको देयर इज ए प्रोविजन फॉर रोटेशन ऑफ ऑडिटर्स. सो उसके पीछे का क्या लॉजिक है? उसके पीछे का भी यही लॉजिक है, to address the familiarity threat. To address the familiarity threat. So these also, the provisions of rotation of auditors also mainly address familiarity threats to the independence of auditors. Then there are intimidation threats. Intimidation threats means इंटिमिडेट करना, मतलब किसी को डराना. तो किसी को धमकी देना, उस टाइप की थ्रेट्स जो है कि आपको काम नहीं मिलेगा, आपकी, इस टाइप की थ्रेट्स जो है वो इंटिमिडेशन थ्रेट्स है. सो दीज आर examples and meanings of 5 threats. So remember their names, students: self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and intimidation. Okay, and so these are 5 threats: self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and intimidation. So we shall be reading about these threats in detail as given in your module in our next class. So it is over for today, students. Nice interacting with you. Thank you. It's over for today. Yes, Manish. Hello, Manish. Yes.